Hey, hey, hello, aloha, konnichiwa. My name is Jonas Claesson. I'm an artist. I live in freshwater outside of Sydney in Australia, and I'm here now at Polu Gallery visiting Hawaii. I have been working as an artist for probably 10 years as like a full-time occupation, and I have been trying to surf since '95. I started surfing in Sweden, which is where I grew up, and it's like really cold. You have like thick rubber booties, gloves, so very different from where I'm visiting now. And but I was drawn to surfing as soon as I saw it in a magazine. It was probably actually a magazine showing pipeline, which I'm still too scared to surf. What inspires me is a lot of things, but I really get really inspired in nature. For example, driving here from Honolulu up to the North Shore, like seeing the beautiful green Hawaii mountains with the sort of rain scattering down and the lights hitting the clouds and the mountains. So, straight away I feel like, oh, I want to try to paint that in watercolor, or that inspires me. Sitting in the lineup in the surf really inspires me. I surfed yesterday, first surf ever on the North Shore, because every time I've been visiting here, it's been like 15 foot, and I haven't dared putting my toe in the water. So I surfed Turtle Bay yesterday. It was really fun. And yeah, I got inspired just sitting there, watching the nice green mountains from the water, and also when you surf, you get a lot of time to sit and reflect in the water, and you're in a different element. So I think it sort of heightens your senses, and you kind of take in the surroundings better. Also get very inspired by animals, and my partner Stephanie, she's a wildlife exotic vet, so she takes care of exotic animals. So get really inspired by that. And now we have a 1-year-old, and having a family that's really sort of changed my life a lot, like it does to everyone, I guess. And so also inspired by that whole journey, and yeah, tying in animals, my love for animals and water and surfing and nature. That's what I try to do with my art. So this latest exhibition is called Refraction, and refraction means when light hits the water, it sort of bends and slows down. And I thought it was a really cool metaphor for how life and your breathing and everything slows down when you're entering the water. Even if you're swimming or surfing or sitting in the lineup, just calms me down. So I think a lot of times you get clarity of things that maybe were stressing you out on land, and you go for a surf, and then all of a sudden this like obvious idea, the solution pops up. So refraction is kind of trying to capture that, and then also incorporate how small we are as humans entering the element of the ocean. So I brought one that's called East Coast Australia, which is where I've painted kind of a dream classic surf trip up and down the East Coast of Australia, which is like a stretch where I lived for the last 20 years, and I absolutely love that place. So I tried to incorporate there or it's one of the first pieces I did where I did watercolor and then combined it with my ink and ink pens, and trying to tell the story of the feeling you have when you've had a good day with friends and family. You've surfed, so you got a little bit physically exhausted, and you're content. Trying to show the feeling of have had a full sort of day outside with friends and family. You're really content. You had something to eat, and sun setting, and you're just content on all the levels. So I use a lot of different techniques. I mean, I use watercolor, ink pens, and acrylics, and I also tend to manipulate a lot of stuff on the computers. Sometimes I do pure graphic works, but some of the originals I brought for the refraction exhibition, I stepped back a bit in times and started doing watercolor with ink pens again, which I probably did last a couple of years ago. So it's really fun. And then so with those I kind of lay down the sketch with pencil first on the paper. It's like really rough to sort of have the outlines of where the watercolors are gonna go, and then I do all the watercolors, dry that, and then I do use ink pens and ink brushes like on top to make it sort of pop, because it pops better when it sits on top. My favorite paper is called Arch's 300 GSM cold press, and it's kind of thick and it's got a really nice texture to it. It makes I really like when the paper texture comes through. Well, there's a lot of cool artists to be inspired by, but what came to mind is a Swedish watercolorist. That his name is Lars Lerin, and he paints really big, and he paints a lot of sort of moody skies, and I got really inspired by him. I actually sort of was mostly doing black and white work, and one time visiting my family in Sweden, my mom took me to his museum or gallery and showed me that exhibition, and we were there for hours, and it kind of made me get really inspired to try watercolors and sort of incorporate color in my work. And yeah, so he's one of my favorites. So my favorite museum is actually Lars Lerin's own museum, which is called Sandgrund, which is in a place in Sweden called Karlstad, which is like kind of a smallish town, so maybe a couple of hours from Stockholm. So I think art for me is something that makes you stop and think and have some sort of emotion. Like it doesn't have to be positive emotion, doesn't have to be happy, but something that makes you sort of stop and experience and feel something that you didn't feel before you saw it. So Hawaii is a very cool and special place. I've been really looking forward to going here. It was 2019 I was here last time, and also had an exhibition at Polu. It's got a lot of, I mean, growing up being really into surfing, and North Shore is essentially the epicenter of surfing. I've read so much about Hawaii and seen so many pictures, and so just driving the stretch here this morning from Turtle Bay to here, it feels like you're driving like sort of on iconic sacred grounds in a way, like driving through Waimea. I watched the Eddie event like online a couple months ago, wherever it was, and I don't know, it's got a really special feeling and cool energy here. And also I feel like the backdrops when you're in the lineups with the green mountains, and all the weather seems to move a lot here, and I feel like the sunsets are kind of like, it's like you turn on the knob like on the sun, like everything is a little bit sort of wilder and more intense. Yeah, it's very cool. I would just want to thank everyone that's sort of, I guess, into my art and letting me pursue this and do this. I feel like it's like it's like a dream to me to be able to create art that I love creating, and and be able to make a living on that and travel the world, come here to Hawaii. It's kind of, you kind of have to pinch yourself. It's kind of weird and amazing at the same time. So I just want to say thank you.